Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Empowered CPA podcast. I am your host, Dawn Scott. This is one of my favorite weeks we're coming off of in my profession. I just wrapped up another tax season. We all have our deadlines and our flows in our business, and this is the Olympics of my sport. So what I find is we have a cadence to what I do. There is absolutely a flow in my chosen world where January through April is this mad dash where we let out all the stops. We think of nothing but the final finish line, and we abandon all logic and anything that would be productive and healthy during that time period. And then we have summer where we all pretend like everything is going to be okay, and we, breathe a little bit, and then we roll into the holidays, and then we start it all over again. And one of the things that was very important to me in my starting of my own practice and my journey was I saw this mad dash and I saw this just all out sprint to this finish line as something that could be not 100% avoided, but certainly managed in a different way to where we are not burning ourselves at both ends for 4 months, 5 months, and for what? So what really spurred the conversation that I want us to have today was April 18th this year, 2022, was the tax deadline. And April 19th, the day after, in all of these professional groups that I'm in, everybody was either so pumped, I did it, hell yeah, I made a ton of money, or my practice is up for sale, screw this, I'm not doing this anymore. And there's really no in between. There's just all this madness. And I think the aha moment for where I really decided we needed to chat about this was this one particular conversation within this group where it was midnight last night and I filed my last return like 3 minutes before the deadline, and I just can't do this anymore. And then people were writing in and they were like, well, my partner had a heart attack. He was in his 40s. Oh, well, my partner had a stroke and he was, 35. It was this like jacked up competition at who took care of themselves the absolute worst. Like there was some medal that we were going to be winning if we won this jacked up competition. And I look at what I'm building and I see such a trajectory and such a timeline, and living that way, people who are functioning that way. I worked 40 hours this week and everyone's like, oh, boo, you suck. You must not have any clients. And then somebody's like, well, I worked 90 hours. And in my profession, for some reason, that's praised as like, oh my God, you're a God among men. Right. And why do we do that? Why do we do that? Do we do that for people who appreciate what we do and are going to be loyal to us? And are we curing cancer? The answer to all of those things is unequivocally no. And so why are we doing this to ourselves? And so I want to talk about how and you should be too, but I am doing things a little bit differently. I joke with my kids all the time that my best friend cures all sorts of diseases. She's a doctor. She's incredible. And my kids always wonder what I do that's productive to the world. And I think it's very important for all of us, no matter what industry we're in, to take a break and just say, nobody dies. I mean, listen, if you're a doctor, like disregard this, but nobody dies if we extend your tax return. Like, just no. Like, I actually don't know what time the tax return gods turn off accepting them on the due date, because quite frankly, I don't care and I never will care, and I will never find myself doing that. And an extension and a follow-up next week works for me. And if you as my client don't respect that, then I have a whole list of other people who you can go to who will happily deal with that. But what I really want to focus on today and talk about is, your health is so much more important than doing that to yourself and stressing your body like that and ruining your relationships. And so I want to walk through some of the processes that I've put in place and some of the things that I think about and I verbalize and I live and every once in a while I foul up. But to be honest, that's better than, having a heart attack at 40. Like, you have a heart attack at 40, man, and it is over. So it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And I know that that's like super cliche, but I absolutely mean it. And these are some of the things that I do to ensure that my work is spread during the year. Like let's spread that nonsense out. It not only makes my work better because, I mean, let's be real. If you're doing super technical work at midnight and you've been doing that for 15 hours a day for the last 3 months, like, you're going to do more damage than you're going to do good. And it's going to end up being more time because you're so tired and you have to fix all these things that you're doing. And it just is harder than if you were just to say, you know what, I need a day. And it could be a Thursday and it could be a Saturday and whatever that day is that works for you. But if you are pushing so hard and you are getting yourself to the point of you're hospitalized, what you're just not doing yourself, especially, and that's honestly who we should really care about, but you're not doing your clients any justice either. So really take a step back and in your business or in your industry, identify these are the busy times, and there are going to be busy times. And there are times, I probably worked, 4 or 5 weekends straight, who knows, but they were very manageable weekends. But, you can't get out of those cycles per se from like a all the time perspective, but you can manage them in a way that is healthy and can be done long term. So I sit down and I say, these are the things that I need to do. And this is my busier time. So I try to plan anything family trip wise outside of those things, because that just adds extra stress, extra whatever to an already stressful time period. So if you can, and not always possible, but if you can move those things to a different time period, that's fantastic. Like I have a huge trip coming up for my kids, and I can say that here because they don't listen to me in real life or on my podcast. I am taking them with my husband on this amazing Disney adventure. And so I purposely planned that 2 weeks after my deadline, knowing that I would have some time to get it ready and I wouldn't be stressed about work while I was there, and really just push that out, right? So I've set up those boundaries within my family and within my business. So my clients know when they sign their engagement letters, these are my expectations of you. If you do not get me X, Y, and Z in a complete format by X date, you're getting extended. And that is end of story. I don't care. You are not going to die. It'll be fine. We'll deal with this later. Because you're not having your tax return done is not worth my health. My health is all I have. My health is the catalyst for everything I do. It is, you start your day in the morning. If you take care of yourself, you're hopefully not achy. And if you feed yourself well, you're, ready for the day. And I'm not going to allow anybody to have any sort of authority over that part of my life, because that is something that is critical to my success today, but also critical to my ability to be able to do this, whatever this may be, for a really, really long time. So really putting those things in place and really saying and being realistic with yourself. These are, I'm working 60 hours this week. Do I really think that I'm going to want to go out with my girlfriends on a Saturday night after all of that, right? Do I want to get my hair done? I mean, do I want to put my makeup on? Do I want to find some pair of clothes that I actually feel good in? Do I want to have too much to drink? So then Sunday morning I'm trying to do taxes and I'm hungover and generally pissed off. And that flows into Monday. And then, you're slower and you're all these things. So be realistic about what your time constraints look like and what your expectations look like. And you know what? My friends are really, really good to me in this area. They're like, okay, well, we'll see you after April. And they invite me to things, but they know I'm not going to come. And every once in a while I surprise them when I show up. But that is also important to this. It's having the people around you who don't make you feel bad for what you're doing, right? My partner works a lot. My partner is a very driven person, and it's one of the things that I love so much about him. And the reason it works for us is I know when he is working really, really hard and he's missing things on his end, right? He's missing events that I would like him to go to or all these things. He's working really hard for the family. He's not doing this because he's like, oh, I'd rather do this than, whatever Dawn cooked up for tonight. But it's important to have those relationships with people who understand that this is a long-term thing and that is built one day at a time, and not adding extra stress of, well, you should have been there and this is what you missed and da 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 da. It's so important to have that support system while you're building it, and you have to be on the same page, because if your home support system is not on the same page, that makes your work life even harder and even worse. So definitely something that needs to be addressed, and every season in your family life is different. When you're in my world and you have a specific tax season, if you will, when your kids are younger, that is different. And then when your kids get a little older, that's a little different. And then when they get older and they don't like you, I think that's different too. I'm not quite there yet, but I'll report back. And so just being very honest and truthful about the seasons in your life that you're going through and what is happening outside of what you're trying to build, and just not keeping all that inside and really just that's how heart attacks at 45 happen, or 40, or there was one guy who was like, I don't know what to do. I'm the admin for this tax firm, and my managing partner is in the hospital for exhaustion, and I have to get everyone extended by tomorrow. And he's trying to leave the hospital so he can get all this work done. And it's like, no, man, your health is so much more important than all of those things. Those things will be dealt with and those things will be handled. And that perspective of what is most important is honestly what is going to allow you to mitigate a lot of that burnout. It's not something that is completely avoidable, obviously, but you have to have the perspective, and you have to have the boundaries, and you have to have those honest conversations with yourself. So another thing that I really look forward to every year is, I work a little bit more during these times, and I'm very realistic about what I can get done and all these things. But then once the tax deadline is over, I do take a couple of days and I just do whatever the heck I want to do. And sometimes that's napping, and sometimes that's getting a pedicure, and sometimes that's just doing nothing and scrolling TikTok because it's fun and there's no educational benefit, I don't think, there at all. But it really helps me get my center back, and it helps me, really ensure that I take a moment and I acknowledge the big accomplishment that I've done for this year. Every tax season is a big deal. For different entrepreneurs, every time you open a new space, that's a big deal, and that should be celebrated. Every time you do something that was hard or those types of things, at the very minimum, take a moment and just say, you know what, I did something really hard and I'm proud of myself, and acknowledge that, because otherwise, what are we doing? I know people who do these incredible things, and they work hard and they fight for something, and then the day comes and it's over and it's complete and it's done. And I'm like, yeah, let's go celebrate. And they're like, oh, we're moving on to the next thing. It's like, yo, man, 2 days, 1 day, half a day, maybe just grab lunch. That is not going to derail your train. So take a moment and just say, I did something really hard and I'm proud of myself. And even if you don't say it to anybody else, acknowledge that you are doing something that is different than what you were doing, or maybe different than what you thought you were able to do. And that moment is going to be so important. I have this thing where anytime I do something really big, not tax season, but open a new business, or when I open my brick and mortar for one of my businesses, or when I hit this huge accomplishment at work, I like to buy myself something that celebrates that, so that every time I see that, I remember these accomplishments. And, sometimes they're in the form of big, beautiful handbags, and sometimes they're in the form of, a really cheery lipstick that I wouldn't normally wear. It kind of depends on how cool it was, but it's just important to really celebrate those goals and not brush them under the rug, because that eventually turns into 40 years of a career where you've never celebrated yourself, and you've never taken that time to be like, heck yeah, man, I did that. And that was awesome. And that was unexpected of me, or that was hard and I overcame that. And yeah, I did that. super important. So recovery, no matter what it is you're doing, is going to make sure that not only can you handle things on your weekly basis or your daily basis. I mean, sometimes we're just getting by hour, but you can't work like that forever and expect your product to be good no matter what you're doing. And you can't expect your relationships to be healthy. You know, I think something that is hard for a lot of people, especially who get really ingrained in what I do specifically, is not only are you working really, really, really hard during these specific times, but those around you are feeling your vibes. And a lot of times our vibes are not great to be around. And they're also a lot of the times picking up the slack for us. So it's important not only for us and for our mental health and our physical health, but it's also for the people around us, right? They also feel the stress. You know, I know for a fact there's days where my stress permeates those around me. And that's something that's really important to be aware of. And sometimes it may not be necessary for you to take a couple of days to relax, but you know what? It might be important for those around you. And that's a conversation that needs to be had. You know, if you have been a walking nightmare for the last 3 months and then you are suddenly fine because your deadline's over and you just move the heck on, well, maybe your staff doesn't want to see your face for a couple of days and maybe they just need you to go away or do whatever so they can recover from whatever the heck you've put them through. So being mindful of not only what you're feeling and what you're experiencing, but also be mindful of those around you, because it's hard on everybody. And if you're not taking that time and that active recovery in whatever you're doing, you're going to burn out not only yourself, but those people around you. And if you have, you know, if you're lucky enough, like I am, to have really good people around you, you need to take care of them too. And that is part of being a boss and being a good person. And it's important to take care of and acknowledge the health and mental health of those around you. So I think when I look specifically at my timeline during the year, there's, you know, big times that we do these things that are crazier than others, and then we rest and then we get back to it. But also just from a day-to-day perspective, there are things that are insanely important to me that I need to have done to ensure that I am the best version of me. So I'm super, super excited that I've been asked to have this article written about me in this major publication that I am like, to say that I am pumped is like the understatement of the century. I have a ghostwriter, which it's the funniest. I have a ghostwriter, and that is just amazing on so many levels. I never thought that somebody who gets the traffic that this publication gets, they get 1.5 million views a month, and they have decided that they want to write an article about me, which, whoa. And so what they're asking of me and what we're talking about is how to juggle all of these different things. And so I'm, you know, being interviewed by this person who is very good at words, which is the opposite of me. And she's asking me, she says, what do you do on a daily or weekly basis to plan out your week and to ensure that, you know, everything is good, right? And so, you know, I personally start my mornings, you know, getting my family ready, getting my kiddos off to school. I don't like to wake up super duper early, but I get up in time enough to get their lunches made and them off to school. And then I take the next hour and a little bit to go to the gym and do my thing there. Because that is something that keeps my physical body healthy, but it also, almost more than that, is my mental health. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I think I have too much ADD to actually sit down and read a book, but I really enjoy listening to podcasts and audiobooks. And this is my time where I just get to move my body, move my brain in a way that is different than what I normally do. And then that is how I kind of set my day up from like a beginning perspective to really start me off properly. And another thing that we talked about was that I have identified within my personality, I do not do well when I don't have all of our meals planned out for the week. If I know that there is nothing in the refrigerator for me to cook for dinner that day, it literally derails my entire day. And I'm also the person who cannot get in a car to go out to eat without knowing where we are going out to eat. Because if we are trying to decide on the way there, you don't even want to go to dinner with me because I am a nightmare. And I don't know why. It's just me, and my husband's a saint and he deals with it. So I've just identified these are things that really derail my day. So I ensure that all of those things are handled so that I can focus on everything else. And then, I make it a good point to lay out my week and the deadlines that I have in that week so that I know my hard stops. These are the things that have to be done. These are the things that I try to front load. I try really, really hard to ensure that if something is due by Thursday, it's done by Monday or Tuesday. And that is just because I get really anxious if I'm pushing up against that timeline because I know something's going to break, and then something breaks because I will it into existence. And that just doesn't work for my very neurotic personality. And so I try to, if something's due by Friday, I try to get it done by Tuesday or by Wednesday so that I have that, like, I've set the expectation that you're going to get it by Friday, but hey, guess what? We got it by Wednesday, and that's awesome. And everyone's super happy. So really, that was one thing that we talked a lot about in preparation for this article was the things that make me crazy and how I try to avoid them on a daily basis. Because when you're juggling so many things, whether that's you have a brick and mortar business, or you have a family, or you have something that's pulling you in more than one direction, that planning is essential. And that planning is also going to help you take care of your physical body, and it's going to help you take care of your mental state. And it's going to make sure that you are setting yourself up for as much success as you can to ensure that you're not facing that burnout on a daily basis, because we can all push through for a while, right? But we can't get there long term. So that also helps in the crisis management, right? One of my businesses, whenever I have to be involved there, from a physical perspective, it's very much unplanned. So I can't plan for those things. And so if I can plan the rest of my day, then it's going to be helpful to help move things around and help determine what needs to get shifted in order to accommodate those unforeseen things. And that also just helps from a planning perspective. And there's days where you can't do it all. And so once you have that clear picture, you can say, to whomever is with you, I need help from X, Y, and Z because I have to be over here doing the rest of this kind of stuff. And so, I think that that's something that a lot of people, when they're in the day-to-day crisis management, we're just pushing through, we're going to make it there, we're going to get there. That is one thing where if you take an extra 20 minutes or hour, or even 2 hours a week to really set yourself up for success, you're going to see the reward of the time back on the end when you're not manically trying to figure out all these things that you forgot about or you unexpectedly came up. And it also helps you say yes and no to things, because if you're consistently saying yes without planning out your time and your expectations, then you're setting yourself up for failure because you're not seeing the big picture. And in a bunch of yeses, when a calendar would have told you to say no to everything, is not helping you maintain this goal of yours long term. It's honestly just getting you from A to B. And the goal in any business should be to get out of that daily grind that is exhausting and get yourself to a very planned and strategic business so that you can do this for a long time, or do this until you're done doing this, or give yourself the power to make it what you want to make it and not just react to whatever life is throwing at you on a daily basis. So really that consistency of these are the things that I do, and having those honest conversations with yourself. Like, I know that there are certain things that I do that make me really crazy. And if I don't have those things in place, that derails me. So have that conversation with yourself. Do I have things that I need to have done? And that's okay. That there's nothing wrong with, acknowledging the things that take you off your path or the things that like spin you out of your brain. I mean, I hate when people leave numbers on the microwave. Like they take something out of the microwave and then they don't clear the 23 seconds that's left on the microwave. Does that make any sense at all? Absolutely not. Does it piss me off? More than I can tell you. And I don't know why, but you know what? My husband clears the microwave when he's done and he just knows like that's just a thing. And I don't know why. And it's not logical and that's okay. It just is. And so just identifying those things within yourself, and my kids know it, and sometimes they leave it there on purpose, and we'll talk about that later. But just acknowledging those things it's okay. We don't all have to be the same, cardboard cutout of each other. Even from a morning routine perspective, my partner is a morning person, like 4 a.m. morning person. And that's when he works best. And he's identified that. And he does all the things he needs to do, quite frankly, before I'm even awake, generally speaking. And that works for us because he acknowledges that this is when he does these things the best. This is when he likes to do his workout. And this is when he likes to, get caught up on his emails. And he likes to do all these things because in his mind, nobody else is awake because we are all sleeping. And that works for him. And he also acknowledges that I do not want to be awake at 4 a.m. It does not move me. I am a giant jerk off by the time it's time to go to bed. And it just does not work. And so acknowledging those parameters, even if it's just within your home, and just saying, this is when I do my best work. Fabulous. Enjoy your 4 a.m. workout. And this is when I do my best work. I like working out at 7:30 because that's normal. And I do my best work then. And that's cool. Nobody dies. And we all get our things done and we all get our workouts done. And then we move on with the rest of our day. So just because you're not doing something that everyone else does at the same time or in the same fashion doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. If it works for you, it works for you. And that's part of setting those boundaries. And those boundaries are what's going to keep you, the person, healthy and keep you happy. And that also permeates to your people. So it's okay if you do things kooky, and it's completely fine if you do things differently, because if it works for you and it works for your business, then awesome. There's no shame in that. There's nothing to be, just set your boundaries around that and set your expectations around that and make it known. And once it's known and it's manageable, then awesome. Like that, there you go. So within that, I also think it's important, especially as we're all transitioning between, are we in an office? Are we staying at home? There's a lot of strain on a schedule when you're going through what we've gone through the last couple of years. And so one thing that I've seen that has been so helpful for me, especially, and I know a lot of you guys that are listening, is setting up your space within your physical location, wherever that may be, to really suit what you're doing, right? I have a client who I love dearly. He's one of my favorite people. He takes all video calls from his closet. No joke, his closet. And the first couple of times I was like, oh, well, maybe his partner is just on the phone doing something different. And this is just the only room in the house where this can be done. No, he likes his closet because it's small, and he likes the audio in there because it's small and all the clothes are in there doing whatever they do with sounds. And it makes him really happy. And I don't think he's ever going to stop doing that. And you know what? I wouldn't want to take any calls from my closet, but it works for him and he loves it. And it's part of why he's so endearing. And you know what? That works for him and good for him. And I think it's important that we all look around and say, am I comfortable where I am? Is this space suiting me? Mine's very close to my coffee maker, which is important to me. I take a lot of calls outside because I live in Florida and it's always sunny. And so I have a lot of bird noises in my background and these random things, but it works for me. And it is something that I like very much. And I sit under my palm tree in my really cozy like lounge chair, and it works, and it's good for every part of me, and that's cool, and that's okay, and that's something that we should embrace, because I know for me, that sunshine makes me very happy, and then that boosts my mental state, and that makes me a better person all around. So, I think really the overarching theme of today and my complete craziness is there is no point in pushing so hard that every day is just like, I got to get through today. If you're waking up and you're saying to yourself on a Monday morning, or even like if you wake up on a Sunday and you're like, God damn it, tomorrow's Monday. I don't know how I'm going to get through this week. It's going to be tough, but I'm going to do it. And I'm just going to push through. I'm going to push through. I'm going to push through. And that is your every Sunday mantra. I think you're doing something wrong, and you need to really identify, are there little things that can be done? Like, can I make my dinner prep easier? Can I outsource my laundry? What can I do? Is there something on my plate that is taking up a lot of my time, but bringing me zero joy or bringing me zero money? Or what am I doing on a daily basis that is making me feel like I can't get through this, or this is like terrible or just awful? And you're finding that people don't want to be around you because you're a dick. At what point, how long are you going to do this? You're going to do this. I have a friend who I graduated college with, and she went to the IRS, and I'm sorry if you're listening, sweetie, I love you dearly. She went to the IRS, and we had a chat the other day because I had something I needed a professional opinion on from someone with insider information. And she's like, oh, I'm just counting down the years to retirement. And I paused and I was like, man, we're in our 30s. That's a long calendar. What do you mean you're counting down to retirement? She's like, I have 18 years left. And I was like, well, that's a long ass time. She's like, well, then I get a pension and then I can really start living. It's like, you're going to wait 18 years to start living, and you're going to be miserable every day because you get a pension in 18 years and some health insurance. Like, do you hear yourself? Are you really doing all of this stuff for 40 plus years so that hopefully you make it to retirement, and God knows, like, hopefully you don't have a heart attack before then or lose your health so much that, God forbid, your journey stops abruptly. But why are you not living today for today and tomorrow? Like, I'm not saying like sell all your assets and never save for retirement, but you should not be miserable every single day hoping for that unicorn when you retire. So if you're finding that, and I'm not listen, there's things I do where I'm like, oh God, it's awful. But those are the exceptions. Those should never be the rule. And if you find that you are every Sunday being just pissed and barely making it through the week, or, having your Thursday cocktails because you can't possibly manage to make it to Friday, something needs to change. This is not sustainable. And, that is hard to do because we all have this perceived notion of where we should be doing and the amount of crap we should be taking from people, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I'm here to tell you that I myself have built a business where I don't have to feel like that, and I don't want to feel like that. And the thought of not enjoying what I've built, or not being proud of what I've built, or wanting to sell every single tax season the day after. There was a poll done in one of my groups, and it was like 50-50. Like, I had a great year. The other 50% was, is anybody in the market for buying a practice? And if that is where you are every year, you're doing it wrong, and you need to evaluate, and you need to be honest. And you probably should even talk to those around you, because they may have some input that you're not seeing because you're so far in the woods that you just can't crawl out by yourself. So really take that time, take care of yourself mentally, take care of yourself physically. There is nothing wrong with saying, I can't do that because I need to take care of me. At the end of the day, all we have is us, and all we have is our health. And if you're not fiercely protecting that, you're going to find yourself in either a health situation you don't want to be in, or in a physical position from a friend or family perspective you don't want to be in. And no matter what you do, none of this is worth that. So really take your time, evaluate what you're doing, and do it consistently. And you're gonna find you're happier, and you're building a practice or a business or a life that you're so proud of. And that honest time with yourself is going to help you reevaluate that through every season that you're going through. So thank you so much for joining me today. I know that feelings and health and self-evaluations are a lot of times very vulnerable positions to put ourselves in, but it'll ensure you're here for the long run and that you never, or hopefully never, find yourself in a position where it's just too much and you cash it in. So thank you guys for listening. You can find us over on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you enjoy your shows.